Hi and welcome to Outwell and to the Hollywood Freeway from our Smart Air touring collection. This is a drive-away awning which is designed to fit any vehicle from 170 centimetres in height up to 220 centimetres. There's quite a few different ways of being able to attach the drive-away awning to the vehicle, so pretty much no matter what setup you have on your vehicle, this should fit it using one of those ways. For more details on that, you can have a look at the pitch and instruction video and you can see the details there. So for me, actually, one of the key defining features of this particular drive-away awning is the frame that we're using on here. So this is actually an inflatable drive-away awning, and we're using our one-go inflation technology here. So what you find is that in place of your traditional sort of steel or fiberglass poles, you actually have a full frame that's made up of inflatable tubes. More specifically on this particular version, as I said there, we're using our one-go inflation technology. So what that means is from one single point on the side of the tent just here, where you can see air in, the entire tent can be inflated from that one single position. And that means that each beam is actually connected to each other inside the tent, which we'll show you in a little bit more detail later on. That does have a good couple of advantages. One is obviously just how easy it is to pitch. It goes up very, very quickly. But secondly, it also provides a really strong and stable drive-away awning as well. The pump that comes with the tent is like this one here. So this is a double action hand pump. As I say, it is included. You see at the top there's a manometer on here, so you can keep an eye on the pressure of this tent when you're inflating it. Now what you will find is that this can actually take quite a lot of air in the tubes here. We recommend that you inflate this tent between 0.6 and 0.8 bar, which represents roughly 8.5 to 11.5 psi. So as I say, there's a lot of air going in here, creating a real solid and stable structure. We will just show you some more details of the frame from the inside, but for now I'll just talk you through some of the features on the outside. So the fly sheet that we use on here is our Outex 6000. Now this is actually a 150 denier taffeta polyester, so it's really heavy duty, long lasting, completely waterproof with a hydrostatic head of 6,000 millimeters, and that's thanks to us taping all of the seams and having PU coating on the inside as well. So you can obviously be safe to know that this tent is completely waterproof with that hydrostatic head of 6,000 mil. Some other features then, we have our luminous guy lines all the way around the tent here, so these are a little bit brighter, so hopefully you're not going to trip over them quite as much in the dark. They are all pre-attached, so you don't need to attach these or anything like that, they're already done for you. Each one has its own retainer, so when it comes to packing away the tent, we can simply roll up the guy lines in our hand and pop it in there so that you don't have a big bird's nest of guy lines that you have to untangle the next time that you come to use the tent. We also supply you with our easy pegging system for this tent. So this is where we have three different styles of pegs. We have the solid steel anchor pegs here, which can be used on the corners of the tent, and that would go into the grey loops. We then have the black plastic pegs for all of the rest of the pegging points around the side of the tent, which are all colour-coded black. And then we have the luminous peg, funnily enough, to be used with the luminous skyline. So all in the name there, the easy pegging system, making sure that you get the right peg in the right place. Just while we're on the outside as well, I'd just like to highlight that we have some ventilation panels. There is one on either side here. So if I just lift that up, so you can see underneath there's actually a mesh ventilation panel, as I say. But if it gets a little bit chilly, we can take this down just by removing the Velcro tabs like this. You'll also find then that there's a side entrance on here, and you can see that there's a full mesh door which completely zips closed. So when you're inside the tent and you want a little bit more ventilation, then you can roll up the outside door as we have done here and fully seal this mesh panel here. Again, as I say, giving you great ventilation but keeping out any bugs. Also, just while I'm here, I'll highlight that we have a electrical input here. So all we have to do is just zip this open. That's your cable entry point just here. So you can run your electrics into the tent without actually having to have any of the doors open. Also, while I'm down here as well, I'll just point out that when it comes to taking the tent down, it's really, really simple and really easy. As each tube that we talked about that's filled with air has its own release valve. So just at the bottom, you'll find that each one of these has a cover that says air out. And if you lift that up there, that's where you'll find the release valves. So all we would do is just turn this round to this position here, and the air would all come out if my finger wasn't in the way. Round the front of the tent, you have a nice good sized canopy on here. So if it's a little bit drizzly but you still want to be able to sit outside, then you do have a little bit of shelter, but obviously more importantly it's covering the front door of the tent. If you're lucky enough for it to be a very hot and sunny day, then this does provide a good bit of shade that you can sit out here on your camping furniture. So the door, there's actually quite a lot of detail to go into on this door here because we have two halves to the door, so really good sized doors even when it's only half open, really easy to get all of your kit in and out of the tent. But the way that the zips are constructed, you can just see here, there's quite a lot of different zip pullers on here. So what you can do is have lots of different variations of how this tent actually opens up. You can have it completely open. There's some mesh doors behind these doors. If you wanted, again, to have great ventilation, you can drop down the outside doors from the top, again, creating lots of ventilation, but certainly nice and versatile at the front here. Stepping into the tent, lots and lots of space in here as well. I'm quite tall, about 1.95 m, and you can see above me I have plenty of height. And as I mentioned earlier on, the tent itself is a really good size space for furniture and storage and things like this as well. So some other features just to highlight then, I did mention the frame from the outside. So on the inside here, you can see, as I was mentioning, that all of the tubes within the tent are actually interconnected with a tube that runs from the front to the back. Now, as I said, that gives great stability as well. If the tent is being sort of battered by wind from the front, you actually have this, which would act pretty much as a sort of bracer beam down the middle. I also just want to highlight here that we have shut-off valves throughout the tent as well. So when they're in this position here, what you'll actually find is that we have separated each of these beams individually. So in the unlikely event of something going wrong, and it is very unlikely that something would go wrong, you actually have separated each beam so the whole tent wouldn't come down, it would just be one single beam. Some other features then just to highlight, we have large tinted windows throughout the tent. So obviously that provides two key functions rather. One would be to reflect the sun away from the inside, keeping you a bit more comfortable. And the second is obviously just to give you a little bit more privacy. If you do want even more privacy, each window has its own curtain. So just at the bottom here, you can see that we have rolled away the curtain and toggled that away. That can either be brought halfway up, just on these toggles at the side, or it can also be brought to the top to give you full and utter privacy. And that's the same on the front doors and on the door at the side as well. So the ground sheet that we use in here is sealed from side to side and front to back. It's a really good quality material as well. We're using an Oxford polyester here, and it has a hydrostatic head of 5,000 millimetres, so it is completely waterproof. You can also just see that it is bathtub in style, meaning that it's coming up at the edges. So that's going to keep out any drafts, any sand or dirt and things like that, and hopefully keep out those unwanted creepy crawlies as well. At the back is where we have our link access zone. Now that is basically where we have the gap between the back of the tent and the vehicle that you have. So you can see that that's fully covered, keeping it nice and sheltered. It also has this ground sheet at the bottom here, again just to protect any drafts, or stop any drafts rather, from coming through, and keeping that completely waterproof as well. So we have a few optional extras available for the tent that would include a carpet for this area here. There's also inner tents that you can attach down either side of the tent, and there's also a footprint to go underneath this ground sheet just for a little bit more protection. So there you have it, that's all the features of our Hollywood Freeway from our Smart Air touring collection. Thanks very much for watching.